So, welcome to You Wanna Learn Guitar by yours truly, Dad, in his humble setting. Alright, so I used to do this exercise to start off. That would be, I don't know, I wouldn't get too into it. I would do it probably for a couple weeks, maybe like 3 the most, because it's really boring, but it's a good indication of where every sound is on the neck. So I would start with, and it also really helps you stretch out your fingers. So if anything, don't give it too much. Just try before you pick up the guitar every time. Just do one run through, and it would be you use your index finger on the first fret, just down your pinky, and then you bring your index here again, and then here. And I would go to the 12, and then I go backwards. String, then you do the other string. You don't want to use your index to do it. You want to do all your strings, but you don't want to use your index and slide it over. You want to use every finger so that you space your fingers out like that. You go like that. You want to do that just to loosen up your fingers, and also it gets you to really get your fingers kind of stretched out a little bit. Another thing is the way you hold the guitar. A lot of people don't understand that the main focus is never so much here. You should just have it in the back of your mind. That's what you're going to play. You should always focus on this hand, because guitar is rhythm, and that's all you're trying to do is create rhythms. So your rhythm is really created on the way you attack your instrument. So like an example would be like, Stevie Ray Vaughan, he would play songs where he would just have, he wouldn't even be playing anything here, but it was the way he would hit the downstroke and the upstroke. That's why you should always kind of feel whatever it is that you're playing. You should have a rhythm that goes with your... So I would say between loosening up your hands and actually really focusing on your main rhythm with your attack, that's kind of key into developing your style of playing guitar. Of course, you're going to have like little things that are slightly different than everyone else, which would be the way you would do your slides and bends. Like for instance, like a George Harrison bend, he bends up down a lot. That's like a style he adds to his playing, so it's his playing when you hear it. So he would just do. Fast. It's like a Hendrix blues kind of thing. But really, what matters, like again, is how you really attack it, because all that matters, like with the bends or it's all being able to attack it first. So I'll do the loosening of the hands. It's a little boring at first, but once you get it, you'll, like I said, give a couple weeks to it just so you can get your fingers kind of loosened, used to the neck. Let your fingers build callus. I'll give you the starts of it. So your electric also has, I'm not sure if you know what the pickups do, but the pickups, you have the 3 on your Squier, so you would have this pickup, which is here on the top. Then when you go down, which is your little... It's your little, like, kind of like softer sound. That's these two put together. That's what that middle one is. This middle, an indicator here goes for this middle pickup by itself. This one goes these two, and that one's your bridge, which is. Hear the difference? This one I normally would use for soloing. It's going to be your heavier, like, of all the other pickup selections. And then go back into the top for a verse. Pickups. Again, I go between that a lot for soloing this up for your main songs, but then I'll play a lot of this one too. This is the softer one. That's when you want a really clean sound. Practice that. I would start with that, and I'm going to start this one with just really basic stuff. And then I would really focus on just falling in love with this instrument for the right reasons. So my main thing was I was just excited to play songs, so I would say by ear is your best. Everything's going to be by ear and by touch. It's kind of like trusting your senses and building that trust. So you really want to understand by trusting what you hear versus what you're looking at and what you're trying to have in your head, because you're not supposed to be in your head when you play. It's supposed to be a relaxing freedom. So to start off, because you don't know where this is going with any of this stuff on the neck, would be listen to other players and kind of put on a record and I would just start off like I was teaching you before on the piano. It's the same concept. You just find the bass first to see what chords they could be, and then from there you just go. I give you, I guess, a couple of sheets on guitar first, and just give you some time to do that. Like if you're finding some songs that have this basic 3-chord progression. Let's say you find it's on G. Well, to find out on the solo for where to go, you can study the denominator. What are those called? I forgot what they're called, but the scales of each. I never do that. I've never done it. I think it just depressed me. So to have fun with it, I would see how other guitar players would approach doing it, which all falls in the scales of G. But I'm not mathematical. I'm very emotional when I play, so it's not going to be like, oh, it's G. I know the G scale. Anyone hearing that to me sounds boring. It's like what Clapton would do. It's the way you would play one note versus knowing what note to play. It's never about knowing, it's about feeling it. So you got a G. But it's more just knowing that if someone's on a G and then someone's here, the way it works with all the chord structures is that they're within one apart from each other. So you have the space in between. So that would be, your chord of G, that would be C, and so on, and so on. Knowing that, what I would do is, if someone's playing that G chord, I know right next to here is going to be within that scale. So that would be know, and that goes for every chord. Next to it down here, but then when you go up, you go back up to where the chord is. I don't know how to put that into words, but I'm sure you'll get the idea once you start messing around. So I would definitely start with some songs. Tell me some songs that you're gonna do, and then I'll help you along the way, and I'll give you some more things, tips in between. Definitely don't rush it. You just take your time. That's all that matters. I mean, Bill Withers is one of my favorite guitar players of all time, and he didn't know how to play guitar till he was 30, and his simple is... That's just one chord he's playing. Skills, it's about the rhythm. So the rhythm is what guitar players focus on when you're like trying to learn this instrument. It's more about not so being like, I mean, that's cool and everything, but I think the main thing is the focus on rhythm is kind of understanding that the relationship between the instrument and your two hands is more about kind of like the mood, but about how you're gonna play that mood. You can play some like Black Sabbath shit. It matters still. But still same thing. So I would start with that, warm up a little bit with that, with your fingers, get loose, take your time, relax. You just need to really keep on those rhythms. And for writing, I would think, because I know you'd be super excited to start writing right away. I mean, you can learn your basic chords, which you already kind of have an idea, where you have your A minor, your Ds, your Cs, your Gs. And then if you want to play that punk rock style or heavier, it's the same chords, but you're playing them as power chords. That's G, A minor, C, and that takes time, so just know that it's a lot easier now here, but as you'll progress, you'll inevitably need to play power chords, especially with like a C sharp minor, and that just takes practice of just kind of getting your fingers used to like spreading that far apart. But another thing is you keep that exercise at first is to loosen up. Another part of that would be like Andy Summers does it a lot in The Police, where he plays. I mean, look how far he stretches. But again, it's kind of loosening up with your fingers and the way you're attacking it more, because your fingers will kind of go with the way you're attacking it, as long as you're just trusting it. Also, keep in mind the way you position on holding this thing with your hand. Like I play the way I adapted from Jimi Hendrix, which is to always have my thumb on the top. There's different ways. People find that very challenging. I grew up playing it with Hendrix, so like it's easier for me. But some people can't. They need to have the fingers up here, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, John Lennon played like that. But for me, it was more like you could do a lot of lead stuff and still keep a rhythm. So. Playing that chord. up the playability by kind of using your thumb as your rhythm. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to that. If you're gonna try and play a little, try messing with how you find to be comfortable the way you hold it. Because how you do the power chord on would be with the index finger, but if you're doing it with the thumb. Keep playing music like by ear. That's such a helpful tool for your ears. I think what matters is not so much your knowledge of getting to know scales or chords. People get lost in that very easily and they give up. It's not fun to learn that stuff, so people don't want to pick up the guitar and not have fun doing it. Me, I just always dread it, and I still do. I never fuck with that stuff. So for me, it was more about what kind of rhythm I could make on it or what I was in the mood for, but I would say, put on other people's records for a while just to get an idea. Once you start playing someone's style, you adapt your own eventually. So I would just consume as much by ear as I possibly could by just putting on a record and listening to it and then just taking my time. I did hours and hours of playing, so I wouldn't rush to kind of, I gotta know what this is. I mean, the first song I learned was Jimi Hendrix because I wanted to learn. I'm still am a huge Hendrix fan. It wasn't because he was a good guitar player, it's because I loved his music. So the first one was really basic, but it's, which kind of goes into that first exercise. And then of course naturally see how my thumb is always up there even though I didn't, if I play up here. Because typically you stay within the confinements of the space in between for it to sound kind of good. Because if you start going in between like close, like it doesn't really sound too good. But for some reason, and I guess I'll give you a little bit of something that you can mess around with. It sounds cool. I had to go hang out with some dude I didn't really like in school to get this chord, and it was really hard to find. I didn't really have the internet to fuck around. So this is the Hendrix chord. The Hendrix chord is with the O, and you kind of have this as kind of like a D, but a reverse D, like a D7. You have it right here. So on the 7th fret, you got that one, and then on the 6th fret. Everything, you add your pinky here, so it looks like that. I hope you can see that. can send you the text of it. And you just hit that open bass. Style you could. The thing that's going to be most challenging at first are your rhythms, which is why I was telling you to focus on those, is because, again, you can play the whole thing. It doesn't matter so much where you land on here, it matters how you attack it. So with that, you got to practice on your rhythm of the palm mute. The palm mute basically is you're putting the muffle on the strings while you're playing it down here. So there's two ways you could do it. You can muffle it up here and you could attack it down here. It doesn't matter, you can put your hands anywhere. It's going to go higher noted up here. While this is playing something here. So you hear this a lot in punk rock and a lot of like rock and rolls kind of stuff where they're doing. That is the palm mute going down here. This one's a little more challenging, so you want to put your hand kind of like this down across all the strings until it's doing that. Okay, then you're going to form your hand. I don't know if you have a pick. You should have a pick. I don't play with limits in years the other. And that you keep down like this, like a judo chop. It's so much music. But that is also part of the rhythm of attacking that down there, but you're doing it down here. That is your judo chop down to your finger. And you just hit all of them. Alright, so while that's on the palm mute for even a rhythm like that, you're gonna, it's about up and down on your like palm mute hand down here. So you'd be